So I just found out some really sad news, unfortunately, about Moses McCormick. I was streaming on my other channel, Hamza the Historian, when someone had made a comment. What do you think about the fact that Moses McCormick had passed away? Um, and it kind of stopped me in my tracks. I did not know that he had passed away. I guess I'm late to the game in finding this out. I found an article on Yahoo News about it. It says Moses McCormick, a YouTube polyglot known as Lao Shu, 55,000, who spoke more than 20 languages, including Japanese and Mandarin, has passed away at 39. McCormick, who had 1.1 million subscribers, died on March 4th from a heart complication, according to the Daily Dot. His family has set up a GoFundMe to have the late YouTuber's remains transported from Phoenix to his hometown in Akron, Ohio. So I have the link to this article in the description below, as well as his GoFundMe link. It should be there. So if we go to the Daily Dot article, it says popular YouTuber Moses Laoshu McCormick, Moses Meanwhile McCormick, who wowed millions of viewers with his ability to speak at least 20 languages, has passed away. With more than 1 million YouTube subscribers, Lao Shu, a term that translates to mouse in Chinese, was best known for his interactions with foreign language speakers across the U.S. I guess his legacy has changed. Back when I was really watching a lot of his videos, he hadn't really done those antics quite yet. He was just making videos to educate people. It says Lao Shu died Thursday evening due to heart complications, according to a GoFundMe campaign set up by his family. Donations are currently being made in order to have the YouTuber transported from Arizona back to his home state of Ohio. Famously from Ohio there, always talks about Akron and Columbus, Ohio, and all those things. So Moses Meanwhile McCormick was a beautiful brother, son, father, and friend. He touched the lives of so many all over the world, the fundraiser states. His dedication and passion for not only learning but teaching a plethora of languages. Users all across social media reacted in shock to the news, including me, sharing ways in which Lao Shu personally touched their lives. So I guess I figured I'll talk about that too. As some of you may know, I converted to Islam, which you could see throughout the process of my videos here on YouTube. And Moses McCormick was a reason why. For those of you who may not know, he was Muslim, and he gave me da'wah, or he invited me to Islam, told me about Islam, a little bit. Me and him used to have a lot of personal interactions. Back in the day on YouTube, you could actually direct message each other, inbox each other. And, back in like 2009, 2010, 2011, the polyglot community was a lot smaller. There was a lot less people on YouTube back then. And we all knew each other. We were all very active in messaging each other, commenting on each other's videos. Even back then, you could do like video responses where you'd make a video that would be attached in response to their video. So if you looked at their video, there'd be another one underneath it with your response. Why on earth YouTube ever took that away, I'll never know. So like I have a response video, to I think at least one of Lao Shu's videos, if not a couple of them. here on YouTube, but they no longer, show up in that format. Um, but yeah, I mean, one of the things that I remembered about this guy is every interaction I had with him, he was humble. He always had the best manners and characters, and so nice. Would take significant, even back then he had thousands of subscribers. He would take significant personal time to talk with me, to give me advice, to explain whatever questions I had for him without ever asking for a penny, without ever asking for a dime. Um, and through his channel, he's just one of the OGs, right? He's just one of the first people who was doing this on YouTube. Through his channel, we all met one another in the YouTube polyglot community. I remember in the old days, you had, a lot of us talking with each other, like I said, on a regular basis. We were Facebook friends. We had each other on MySpace back when MySpace was the thing. Um, Facebook used to be more of a social media platform in those days. There was a lot more ways to interact with one another. Like I said, you could personal message, and all that stuff's been like deleted. So I don't even know how to get back to those interactions and messages, that we wrote each other. I think it's all been deleted by Google or whatnot, unfortunately. Um, but I do remember us talking quite a bit about Chinese because I was studying, Mandarin Chinese, Chunghua, back then. And I still use it to this day, even in my academic career. I use Mandarin Chinese. I have a forthcoming article with Routledge in what'll be their Handbook of Islamic Ritual and Practice, which is supposed to be a textbook for undergraduate students and graduate students alike in religious studies departments at various universities. And I use Mandarin in there when I'm talking about. I wrote the article on the history of an Islamic school of jurisprudence called the Hanafi school. And that's the dominant school that's in China. For those of you who don't know, the biggest religion in China, arguably, is Islam. And they follow the Hanafi school of jurisprudence. So I used my Mandarin Chinese. I looked at some Chinese sources and things like that, and wrote, in Chinese characters a little bit about the Islamic scholars who wrote in Chinese about Islamic law, Islamic jurisprudence, or Islamic ethics, however you want to call it. And, a lot of things that I learned in the very beginning stages of me learning Chinese came from a lot of Lao Shu's videos, or Sheikh Musa, as I thought of him. Moses, Musa is Arabic for Moses. So he went by Musa too. Yeah, I mean, the pandemic's been rough on us all. Um, in a way, I consider, Moses McCormick to be a friend, to be somebody I personally knew, even though we never met in real life. We corresponded quite a lot back in the day. And so I consider him as a friend and a mentor. And, I lost 5 people over the past year, and now he would be the 6th. Um, That's a, it's been a rough time here. Uh, he even studied the Somali language, which is a language I've always been quite interested in. Um, he has a video speaking Somali. I have some videos on Somali language as well. Um, and if you might know, Columbus, Ohio, especially has a significant Somali population there. I mean, Moses McCormick too. I talked to him about linguistics, the field of study called linguistics, and for him, he didn't like it for various reasons. One of the things he'd always tell me is he's just like, man, it's too mathematical, and it's not about actually learning languages per se. Um, and I ended up doing a bachelor's degree in linguistics and language acquisition, applied linguistics, not theoretical linguistics. Because I liked all aspects of language, even the quote unquote mathematical, kind of syntactical or grammatical kind of parts about it. I mean, that's probably why I've been attracted to the Arabic language, because it's so syntactically complex. It's one of the most grammatically complex languages out there. The Semitic languages are like that. Japanese is also more grammatically complex, but I feel that Arabic is slightly worse, and I feel that Arabic is formal, classical Arabic, medieval Arabic, which is what I study. I feel like it's more complex than probably many languages out there grammatically, because of the fact that it's partially in you might say artificial language. The grammar is a prescribed grammar in a lot of ways, because it's a written standard language. Um, and yeah, I mean, it says that he died due to heart complications, heart attack. I think people are suspecting, um, but it's not entirely clear. I'm not sure if the family has released a lot of information or if they ever plan to, and that's their right to privacy. I'm not here trying to invade anybody's privacy at all. Um, if we go back to the GoFundMe campaign, I'll try to read what's there. So it just simply says Moses Manuel McCormick was a beautiful brother, son, father, and friend. He touched the lives of so many all over the world. His dedication and passion for not only learning, but teaching a plethora of languages. In an unforeseen and unexpected turn of events, Moses passed due to heart complications. Family is asking for any amount of donations to transport him back home to Akron, Ohio from Phoenix, Arizona, so we can have a proper home-going service for him. Thank you all for the love and support. And that's from Susan McCormick, his sister. And, I encourage you all to donate, no matter whatever their goal is or how much money they've already raised, because we want him to have a dignified and honorable burial. We want him to have a dignified, honorable service, dignified, honorable tombstone, and we want his family to have money. I mean, this guy had kids. He had a wife. Um, it's tragic. And he seemed so healthy. That's the thing. He talked about going to the gym, working out. He seemed like a guy who ate very healthy. Um, it's one of those freak kind of sad things, you know. Kind of reminds me of Bruce Lee, who I know Lao Shu very much admired. Me and him talked about Bruce Lee quite a bit because we were both big martial arts Bruce Lee fans. Um, you know, when I was a young kid, I did a lot of school projects on Bruce Lee because I was always just so fascinated by Bruce Lee and martial arts and those types of things. Um, and me and him, you know, talked about those things, and I guess you could say bonded over those things. Um, on his Wikipedia page here, says that his alma mater was Ohio State University. Um, I remember him telling me that he never graduated from Ohio State University, but he took a lot of uh, classes, or he took some classes there. And yeah, this is the guy who makes the level up videos. But anyways, he told me that he took a lot of classes there, and he also told me, oh boy, what's that called? I don't even remember what they're called anymore. But he told me about this system that they have at universities. I should really know this as an academic, but where basically you can test out of language courses. If you've already self-studied a language, you already know a language, you can take a kind of like a standardized test to prove your language proficiency, and they give you college credits. And I remember, you know, Moses McCormick, he was telling me about how he had like tested through a whole bunch of languages and just got like a ton of college credits without ever taking, you know, these classes. He just got like a ton of college credits because he was able to pass all these tests, these standardized tests. And it just goes to show you, like back in the day, you know, he had some, you know, videos on each language that were like 10 minutes long. And, you know, when you only speak for like 5 to 10 minutes, you're only showing maybe a small vocabulary range. You're only showing, you know, a certain amount of grammatical expertise or whatever you want to call it. And so some people, you know, you got haters out there, right? Everybody's got haters. Haters gonna hate. And they would say, oh, he doesn't really know that language that well. But then in my private correspondence with him, he'd be like, oh, yeah, I you know, tested at an intermediate level in that language on the exam and got such and such many, you know, college credits. Um, so, you know, that's proof to me that he had some sort of working competency in those languages. And, you know, the recent videos that I've made too after going to graduate school, you know, there's different ways to study languages, and people learn languages for different purposes. Some people, their main purpose is to read and do research, or just read and write. And so they're more concerned with just heavily focusing on grammar and not so much vocabulary, because you can just look up whatever word in the dictionary if you need to when you're reading. You can take your time with it. You could sit and think about it for a while and decipher what the meaning is, what's going on grammatically, and so on and so forth. You know, they call this philology. It's, you know, philology is an older word, and you might say an older science in Occidental intellectual history than linguistics itself. Linguistics is more of a contemporary field of study. You might say started with Saussure, you know, in the early 20th century, whereas philology goes back even in the 19th century, even earlier, maybe to the Renaissance. So, you know, anyways, I'm probably just rambling on now. I'm sure I'm getting too boring, but anyways, the point I'm trying to make is that Lao Shu had proficiency in, I think, many more languages than people really understand. And they kind of put the number in these articles as 20, but I believe the number is more closer to 60 if I'm going to be completely honest. Because some of the languages that he might not have spoken a lot, he still had proficiency in. He could still read in, he could still work with them. It maybe would take him a short while and he would get the hang of them again quite quickly. Because when he would study a language, I mean, he would go balls to the wall, very obsessive, very focused. He, was famous back in the day for writing out his daily language schedules on the whiteboard. That was one of the things that we all used to use was whiteboards, back in those days. Now you got all the fancy graphics and stuff that you can easily edit into your videos. But back then we used a lot of whiteboards. That was kind of just a common thing in the polyglot community because it's just quick and easy when you're making a YouTube video to write on the whiteboard. So yeah, I guess that goes that line of thought. I'm assuming he was traveling in Phoenix. I don't know, what why he was over there instead of being back home in Ohio. It says that McCormick gained popularity by speaking several languages with native speakers that he met in public places and uploading the videos to his YouTube channel. So, I mean, I don't like that characterization of him because he was really popular before he did that whole thing where he would like jump out and make these videos like speaking to native speakers. That's kind of a more recent thing that he did. But for many years, he wasn't doing that. He was just making videos of himself speaking those languages from home. That's how I remember him. And he talked about leveling up in his, foreign language road running or FLR system back then. So it's something that predated his kind of more, I guess you could say, clickbait viral type videos that he's done recently. And of course, he did language learning consulting. He kind of like coined that term and kind of started that field for us, really. He was a pioneer in that regard. Polyglot consulting or language learning consulting, where he would help people to learn languages. Even if he didn't speak that language, he can tutor you in methods of language acquisition. And I think that's really a major accomplishment that is not often talked about with him. He was really a pioneer in that regard. He got me clients. I think he got other people clients. And, we all were able to help each other out with that. So I think that's kind of something quite important. And those are back in the days when Skype was really kind of a new thing. And, it says here in Wikipedia page, the foreign language in which McCormick was most fluent was Mandarin Chinese. I don't know, man. He spoke Cantonese pretty darn well too. I think he told me he spoke, at least when I spoke with him back in the day, that he knew Cantonese better. And so it says he spoke Japanese, Vietnamese, Korean, Somali, Spanish, and Swahili. Yeah, Arabic too. He was fairly decent with the Arabic. I hope we can get more added to his Wikipedia page too by, someone may scour many of his YouTube videos and, add a lot more information to his Wikipedia page. I mean, he's the type of person you could write a whole entire book on his life because of all that he accomplished just by watching his videos. I mean, definitely someone a documentary could be made on or any of those types of things. I remember, very vividly, how we all contributed together to the Polyglot Project with Syzygy. And we were all a part of that book, which unfortunately for whatever reason, is no longer in print. But the Polyglot Project was something I was very proud of. That was my first ever publication. Now I got academic articles and other things that I've published. But the first thing I ever published was back 2010, the Polyglot Project. And if you want to see my article on the Polyglot Project, it's out there on the internet. It's on my academia.edu profile. And if you don't know what that is, that's a social media kind of website for academics. You could just sign in with your Facebook or like Google account or whatever. And if you want to just go, you could read academic articles there for free. So I have my chapter of the Polyglot Project scanned and put up there. If anyone's interested, they can go, take a gander at it. But I remember, reading his contribution and us together as a polyglot community at that time coming together, and we got this massive book together. That's kind of part of our legacy, and for sure part of Lao Shu's legacy. That it's out there. Anybody can go and read the whole thing. It's full of really important information about language acquisition, and unfortunately it hasn't been publicized enough. It hasn't been recognized enough for the really important work that it was. I mean, it was a book of many different polyglots from all over the world who've studied all different kinds of languages, explaining their techniques for learning languages. And sure, most of them did not have some fancy degree, did not go to graduate school, get some PhD or blah, 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 blah. But what they wrote about was quite significant. They wrote in layman's terms, giving all kinds of advices on how to learn languages. And I feel like there is a lot that can be learned from that. Academics should go to this book and they can learn things from it. They should be researching this book themselves. Someone should write a history of the polyglot community on YouTube. I'd be more than happy to assist them if that's a project that they want to do. And, you can find my page, Hamza the Linguist, on Facebook and message me there. If this is something you're interested in doing, I'm more than happy to help out, and give you advice of where to look and what to do. Many of the suggested channels on my channel are of the, you might say, polyglot community OGs, the original foundational members, if you will, of this community. I don't make as many videos as I used to because I feel like I don't know what more I have to offer or what more, I could say about learning languages. I feel like I've said a lot of the important things, and a lot of that stuff I still use and apply in my life now. I'm one of the recent developments with me is that I'm studying Syriac. I'm trying to study a little bit of each Semitic language just so that I can better understand them, because I work academically with medieval Arabic quite extensively. And, I was talking to one of my friends that I met when I lived in Egypt briefly, who he did his PhD in Semitic linguistics in Sweden. And, I was talking to him, I just realized one day that the word for goat in Arabic, ghanam, is related to the word for war booty, ghanima. And he says, yeah, in Syriac, ghanaim, it means to take something. So really this word started meaning to take something, to confiscate something, or like take something as war booty. And the thing that was most often took as war booty was goats. So that just kind of like became the name for goat in Arabic eventually, because Arabics were such, warring tribal society, the pre-Islamic days. And, so for me, I want to learn, ancient Ethiopic, I want to study more Hebrew. I want to study, different branches of Semitic languages, right? And I'm also studying French, mostly just for reading, for research, because there's French academics, especially in 1800s and early 1900s, that I'd like to read. Nowadays, a lot of Europeans are publishing in English, but I like to be able to read. I read German academics already, but I'd like to be better at reading French, which means I got to have a better understanding of French grammar. But admittedly, French is one of those languages that you can easily throw up. I could type up a paragraph of whatever book I have and throw it into Google Translate, and it does a pretty darn good job. But I want to actually know the language and not rely on Google Translate, which many of us polyglots know is very faulty, especially with non-European languages. It's terrible. It's absolutely terrible for Arabic. I don't know what people they have in their computational linguistics department, but whoever they got in charge of all the Arabic stuff, I mean, they got a big job ahead of them. Anyways, yeah, I mean, it's quite shocking to me, and I'm sure it is to a lot of you, that Moses McCormick has passed, especially as young as he was, as healthy as he looked. It's quite devastating. And even on March 4th, he had a Instagram post, according to Yahoo News, although you can't click on it. Perhaps it's been deleted. But it says McCormick started studying different languages around 20 years ago. I noticed that most language books and classes did not teach students how to prepare for real world conversation, his YouTube bio says. In an attempt to solve the issue, I developed my own method, the FLR method. The videos on my channel show the progress that I've made with different languages over the years using FLR. I hope you are inspired by my content and that you decide to learn a new language as well. And yeah, I mean, definitely he inspired quite a lot of people to learn languages. It was nice, back when we could all easily message each other on YouTube, comment on each other's videos, and have kind of these threads and strings of conversations. That was a more intimate, smaller community. And it was like, maybe after a few years, YouTube kind of exploded and so many people got on YouTube from so many different countries. And all of a sudden, people like Lao Shu became inaccessible. If I comment on his video, I was just one of thousands of comments, where before I was maybe one of 20 or one of 50. And he could easily talk to me and we could easily talk to one another. And then he just, became unaccessible, unfortunately. And I've had him on Facebook, but even on Facebook, he's got just so many people that are friends with him and talk with him. But his Facebook is still up, it's still active. I got it in front of me here. CEO and president of FLR Road Running Techniques. studied Chinese at Ohio State University. Says here he lives in Phoenix, Arizona. So presumably he moved to Phoenix. I didn't even know that. A lot of people posting happy birthday on his Facebook, and they don't know that he passed. It looks like. Got me tearing up here. You know, he did mean something to all of us. It says that he was born in 1981. I'm just checking to see if he's got any cool quotes or, things like that. But, Richard Simcott and a lot of mutual friends that I see, between me and him on Facebook, and some of the people in the, Polyglot community. People like Jamal Dean, who's also, one of the brothers that told me about Islam back in the day. We had conversations about Arabic. Steve Kaufman, he's one of the OGs too in the Polyglot community. Felipe, things like that, man. All kind of brings me back to that time. He's got some videos on his Facebook for any of you who's still Facebook friends with him. That's going to be something to go watch to remember him. And he's got, video. I remember him with this classic, kind of, I don't know what you call it, like winter Russian kind of hat, with the sides coming down and the fur thing on the top. That was like his brand, man. Brand for sure. That and the baseball cap. He always liked to have a baseball cap. He will definitely be missed. Much is for sure. He seemed like a guy who was into fitness too. So it's, like I said, it's crazy like Bruce Lee. And I think that, the way he would have wanted to go was like Bruce Lee. I think he'd be honored by that in a way. Really got me choked up tonight. This early AM hours, if you will. But yeah, I guess those are kind of my emotions or sentiments, if you will, on this very sad news. It's hard not to cry, trying to hold it in and keep it together on the camera here, but it's weird to cry about somebody you never met in real life, but someone you just corresponded over the internet. But hey, that's the digital age that we live in, I suppose. And with he's almost got what you might call a celebrity status for sure within the polyglot community. Would have been nice if there was some public way that we could mourn him other than making videos like this. But with the COVID pandemic, it's not really possible to do, unfortunately. But I'll bid you guys all adieu, and I'll be making another video sometime soon about books on learning Syriac and some of the new books I got for learning French. I still got a couple that are supposed to come in the mail, so I'm waiting for those to come in the mail. I could take a look at them, and I'll be getting back to you guys with maybe a couple videos on that. So thanks for listening, and may he rest in peace. Rahimahullah rahmatan wasi'atan. Bye.